Okay, welcome back to the RatRig V-Core-4 printer build. In the last video we built the table, so the build plate. We just installed it. We didn't actually put the heating plate on, so there's still some work to do there. But the next step is going to be installing the tool head. In this case, in some of these they have what's called hybrid, so it's one tool head but there's additional motors to pull the y-axis. In my case, the way that this is set up, I'm doing an IDEX build, so I will have two tool heads. So I'm pretty excited about that. I have the parts sitting here ready to go. I'm actually going to build both of them simultaneously. I think it's going to be pretty cool. So here we go. So before I actually show you how to build this, I want to show you what it is in this video we're going to tackle. And that is both of these tool heads. So tool head 0 is the one on the left, tool head 1 is the one on the right, and tool head refers to the Extruder Hotend combo. That's used in other CNC stuff too, so that's kind of something I use interchangeably throughout this video. Basically what's going on is we're going to install the electronics that go to the extruders and control the extruder and the hot end, and then we're going to install all these other components and get that all set up. So without further ado, let's jump into it. We are ready to begin assembling. The very first step is to install these. This is the aluminum bracket that will hold everything that contains the tool head. So that's the extruder, the hot end, the fans, everything. And it mounts it here to the gantry on the x-axis. It's actually kind of challenging when it's moving like that. These also have Loctite on them, so they're a little bit harder to screw in. I mean, they're definitely not difficult, but there's just a tiny bit of resistance that makes it a little bit harder to spin them in like I'm used to. The instructions say to do one, we're going to do them both. I did attempt to build both of these in parallel. I thought it would make sense because it'd be kind of like an assembly line, but I built them both until I got to a point where it made more sense to just focus on one at a time, and so you'll see that here. Printer is a pretty good size, so I've been on my toes a lot. This workbench is fantastic, except for that part. It's a little high with this. The next step is to assemble the fan duct, as well as the front part that is actually so this is the part that holds the fan itself, and then we have the actual duct that blows down the part cooler. These will go together. You'll see here in a second. So these two here are gonna come together just like this, and there's going to be a screw that comes in from this side and a screw that comes in from these two sides here, and it appears it's going to line up. I had it upside down but it's going to work. Just trying to appreciate this design actually. Okay, so that's in place. We're going to drop this little screw in here, and that should suck everything together. You should get some nice airflow, basically the airflow through here and then down into the part. It's pretty neat. So I'm going to assemble the other one really quick. All right, here we go. So now we have the other one here. You should have both. We're going to call this one T0, and this is T1. And I believe that's exactly how they're going to go, left and right. Okay, so the next step is to install these, or to prepare these fans. I kind of did this off camera. Basically, they have these little tiny rubber pieces that sit on here. I guess in most cases that these fans would be used for, that would be to reduce vibration. In this case, we don't need them. And I think what they would actually do is prevent a good seal between this surface and that surface. So went ahead and removed all of those. We should be good to move forward. So the next step on here is to prepare the fan and the fan ducts. So we're going to go ahead and install this assembly. This fan, this belt might be in the way right now, so we're just going to pull it out of the way right now. There should be some screws that are going to drop through here. So we're going to drop these screws through here. These will feed through the fan. Probably looks ridiculous watching me from that angle. And okay, so that's something that's going to be an issue. The wire needs to come out here, otherwise there's no room for it. So the fan wire needs to come off to the side. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We just broke, I don't know why it shows, I don't know why this was the way it was, but I broke I broke this piece off so I can pull the wire off to the side so that this could sit flat. Shouldn't really be a big deal. We want these to go through here like that. Want this to go like this. Okay, so just a little bit of test fitting there. And screws seem awfully long, but I'm not really sure what the other option is there. Okay. Okay, look at that. That's pretty neat. All right, so we're gonna assemble the other one. Mount this on there really quick. Again, same fan issue. I'm going to assume the wire should go off to the right. I don't know for sure though. This might be where I have to deviate from doing both. I'll come back to that. I just don't want to put that stuff in the wrong side and then have to redo it. So we're going to move forward with just this one and we'll come back. So this part's just kind of neat that these pieces are starting to fit together like puzzle pieces. They fit together really nice and tight. This piece here is the duct for the cooling fan for the hot end. And then I need these screws to drop through the top of there. The only problem is it didn't call for more countersunk screws. I need 2 more of these. So I think their numbers are wrong. I have to give props to RatRig for their build manual. It's really quite good. But in this set of steps, it called out some of the screws incorrectly, and that actually caused me some rework, which you'll see here in a bit. However, one of the best features of the manual is the ability to leave comments. I went back and looked at the manual, and there are some comments already correcting the screw mix-up. So remember to check for comments when you're building your own printer. Let's see if I can just drive those in by spinning them through. Right now they're in the plastic. So we're threading them through the plastic. So the holes are probably just a little tight. So now we should be hitting the threaded insert on the bottom. All right, it should be all right. That does not want to spin. Kind of the problem with doing 3D printed parts. They're not quite perfect. Sometimes the holes are a little tight. That's what she said. Okay, that pretty solid. Okay, so we have that piece assembled. I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we got that. Moving on. So now it's having me install the grill. I think there's probably more to keep parts out of the fan. I don't think anyone's fingers are going to end up in there. Alright, that should be alright for now. Okay, so this next part is going to be a little bit interesting. So this, I need to somehow feed the... Wow, how is that going to work? So here what I'm trying to do is install the belt and connect it to this first tool head. So it actually attaches in the front here, but what you're seeing me do is try to route it in and around that screw that's coming in from the top. As I looked at it a little bit, I kind of found where I think there's a better way to do it, and that's to remove that screw first. I sincerely agree with how they suggest doing this. I'm going to show you what I'm doing, because you need to see this. This is ridiculous. So I'm trying to feed the belt into here. And the problem with feeding the belt into here is I can't get in there, and this screw is here. So if I could pull the screw out, which I'm going to do, I think I can just feed the bolt through there after the belt is in. Doesn't that make more sense? So if I do that, yeah, and then I don't have to feed it. I would have probably said to do that a little bit differently, but that's okay. Anyway, we pulled the belt through. Definitely recommend doing that in a different order, but whatever. So then we have these kind of interesting stops. And this has to go in to hold the belt in place, but the belt is actually supposed to go like this. Very specific place it's supposed to mount. Is there supposed to be an insert there? I never put an insert there. Where was that instruction? Yeah, there was definitely something that said I was supposed to do that. All right, we'll be right back. Oh, for shit's sakes. Okay. Oh, remember? See, I almost did it again. 100% that's the way to do it though. Okay, so that's done. And now what this means is I could pull this back to where it's supposed to go. I think it's still pretty warm. And this thing, oh, I see. So that should bolt itself right in there. I don't know what screw I'm supposed to use. Is that this one? I bet it's that one. That's a pretty cool design. I like that. Alright, so you can see that's how that belt gets held in place. That's pretty slick. Alright, RatRig, that's one for you. Okay, we just put the belt in place. The next step is to install the belt on the back side of the tool head, and that means I need to cut the belt that I've been putting off cutting up until now. And for whatever reason, I'm still nervous about it. Okay, maybe I don't want to cut it yet. Being a bit of a pansy here. At this point, I decided I pretty much had no choice. I need to figure out where to cut the belt and just do it. So I'm working out how much slack I need, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut it. I'm pretty sure it's going to give me enough. But I really got to cut it because I cannot move forward without cutting it. Cutting it. Oh. Scares the shit out of me. Okay. Feeding the belt through. Okay, yeah, it's a lot. So then this is going to go in like that, which is kind of cool, actually. It's a little difficult to see on camera, but this green piece acts as a wedge that pushes the belt against 3D printed gear teeth in the tool head to lock it into place. Once the wedge is in place, a screw is installed from the opposite side that pulls the wedge the rest of the way to fully lock in the belt. Okay, actually, we got to do something different here. Part of the problem is this. Part of the major problem is this. Okay, we'll come back because that's not right. But of course, that's all in theory. The screw doesn't want to actually fit through the piece as it's supposed to. This thing here doesn't want to go through all the way. That's tight, but it works. So I'm making too big of a stink out of this. I think this is going to go in here. I'm going to pull this kind of tight. Stick that in there. So that should be, you know, it's probably going to change a little. So I don't know why I can't get this to go through. There's something in here holding it up. Maybe I just need to give it a nice little shove. Aha! See? I just got to give it a little extra. Okay. That's cool. Look at that. So there's one down. The next step is to prepare and install the Rapido V2 Hotend for the first tool head. Okay, so this is kind of cool. The very first step for the Rapido Hotend is actually to remove this top piece. So that's the adapter that would go for V6. So for the, I don't even know what you call that, the E3D V6 Hotend type. So we're going to remove that. Okay, so I had to step away and find the right Allen wrench. Turns out the Allen wrench I had for this size and the T-handles broke. And now because I over wrenched it, it fell off the workbench, broke itself. So anyway, we're going to remove these two screws. Well, that came off pretty easy. Apologize, you really can't see this until I get done with that. Okay. So there we're left with these four holes, and we're gonna set this stuff aside because we don't need them. We're gonna use these silver screws, same size, different length. So here's the deal. Down here, you have three little screws that mount down here. They happen to dictate where these wires run. And by rotating it, and I'm guessing that'd be 180 degrees because there's three, you could potentially place this differently in comparison to these 4 holes. So the goal right now is to go ahead and place that where it's going to go up in this tool head and see if the holes line up. So cross your fingers for me because I really don't want to take more stuff apart. Oh, and we got super lucky. If we get lucky on the other one, I will be shocked. But I'm happy, and we're going to go ahead and go with it. So the next parts here, we're going to install this limit switch, which is going to go right here on these 2. So the next step, we're installing the cooling fan. It specifically says to have the wires go this way, which again, really am not understanding that because these wires are over here. But I'm going to follow the instructions and we will see what happens. The fan's an easy enough thing to change down the road, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. All right, that one looks too loose. Starting to look a little bit more like a printer. Okay, now this is a component I'm excited about. This step doesn't really do anything for me, but this is the Beacon Z probe, and I just think it's really cool. This is the sensor the printer will use to scan the bed surface to measure variations in Z height before it prints. It installs easily right at the bottom of the tool head with 2 screws, and it actually tucks in quite nicely with the wire connector fitting in the channel of the fan duct. We'll run. We're going to lower the bed a little bit. I decided to lower the print bed manually a little bit to give myself more room with the Allen wrench below the tool head. And then I was able to finish up those last 2 screws, just tighten them up a little bit, and there you have it. The Beacon is now installed. Next, we have to work on this orbiter extruder just a little bit. So what they want us to do is move it so that this wire is actually up on this other side here. So there's a bunch of steps to take this apart. So I'm just going to disassemble it real quick. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. We're going to move that. We're going to take these 2 off and just rotate it. Okay. Then we're going to spin that over, put everything right back together. Just like that. Just going to reassemble that real quick. And we'll reinstall this tension screw. Should be fine for right now. Okay, so we got this wire coming off of here. And now that we've done that, I think we're ready to go ahead and install this. It uses our standard M3/8s, which we've used a ton of. And that little Teflon piece is sticking out there. What I don't like is it feels like the Teflon piece is a little too long. So what I'm going to do is swap it out and see if the other one's slightly shorter. They're both identical, so I guess that's what it is. Just how it's going to be. Alright, so this is going to fit on there, as you can see. At this point, I want to apologize for all the out of focus shots. I didn't realize just how bad it was until I started editing. And although it's difficult to see, we just finished installing the first orbiter extruder on the first tool head. And you'll get a better view of it in a second. So this is the tool board. Set that over there. Okay, so the next step is to take this driver board. This heat sink, I already peeled the plastic off the back. And just push this into the driver. Whoa, hold up. I made a mistake here. It should go in this spot. This is the actual motor driver on the board. Where I show putting it here is actually the board's microcontroller, which doesn't generate much heat. So the next thing I got to do is take this little stand off and thread it onto the back of this nut here, or this screw here. So it sticks out, it protrudes a little bit. And we're just going to thread this onto the back there. I'm going to give it a little bit of... Okay, that's probably plenty. You really don't want to overdo that. So then the next step is to install this piece. It will hold the tool board and will guide all of the cables away from the tool head. And it's the exact same piece that we'll use on the other tool head as well. So we're going to take this and we're going to mount that. In a second anyway, we're going to mount that. Oh, this goes this way. That's why it's confusing. Okay, so that's a little trippy. So basically these screws here go all the way through and out the bottom. And then they screw into the back on top of this fan cover. Didn't really see that coming. So what we're going to do is we're just going to push that screw through. The same thing on this one. That's going to take some finesse though. Oh, we got it. Okay, so see how those both protrude there? So we will just mount those. Then we need one more screw. It's going to come in from the back and mount this to here. And like that, almost, keeps going. Okay, so now this piece is mounted. Okay, this next part makes more sense. But again, we're on the wrong side. So we're going to mount this upright, but back here into those. Motor driver board is mounted back there. Okay, look at that. So this is the first motor. We're calling it T0. And that's it right there. It's done. I'm going to scooch that over here, and we're going to start working on this guy. Seems that we have a mix of these silver stainless appearing screws and the black oxide screws. And so I must have put all the black oxide ones on the other tool head, and so we're going to be putting these ones on this one. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. They're the same length, and that's just how we're going to do it. First step, it's going to go like this. Now, where does it want? Same thing on this one. We're going to have to break the fan piece, this wire. Maybe didn't have to break it, but so I'm going to get the wire to go the way I want. Okay, so I'm also going to be pointing these fan wires this way towards the other fan. So this is going to come up here, making sure to stay clear of this belt back here, which you can't see from this camera. You should see it from that one. And we're going to drop these through the fan. Sounds a little squeaky for some reason, don't know why. All right, there's our second one. Okay, so we did this on the other side. One thing I knew or noticed is that the screws did not want to fit through. This one does not seem to be an issue, so that's convenient. So we're going to go ahead and push this through here. What's less convenient is that it doesn't seem like that screw is catching. What the hell? So I think I discovered a potential mistake here, which is sort of unfortunate. It's okay though, I think we'll make this work. But I think I know what's going on with these screws. The ones I just put in are 35 millimeter, and they work great in the back. They do not work for the front. The front needs longer screws. So we're going to do, if we can, pop this off over here, hoping to keep all the other parts intact, if I can help it. Look at that. I'm just going to be able to pop this thing right off the top. So I hope anyway. Oh, look at that. Perfect. So once I take that fan duct off, I'll have access to the screws I need. I'm going to swap them out. Well, that'll work. We'll just do it just like that. In fact, that might help hold everything in place. So we're going to pop these two out, because I think they're longer screws than they need to be for where we put them. But I think I need them in the front. Yep, pretty sure these need to go here. Okay, sure enough, it's exactly what was going on there. I think they have a typo. So I even made an update in their page. Just causes rework, you know. Okay, so that definitely fixes the problem on this one. So that's good. That's good. Now we drop in this little silver guy on the old one. Pretty Happy with that. Check that out. Spin this around. What did I do with the other screw? Must be this one. Hope it's that one. Now this thing should drop right back into place. Beautiful, just like that. You can lift the screws on. For a second, I didn't think that was going to go. Okay, so we got that. We got this. Now we can move forward. Okay. Well, the next step is going to be with our little belt here. What I'm doing here is pulling it so that I just have this here. And again, same freaking thing. I did this twice, but what we're going to do, remove this, because I think this is the smartest way to do this. We'll push the belt into here, this little slot down here, and run the bolt through it. What's cool about that is it's just so much easier. So now we have this belt, we'll pull it until it fits flush into this little catch here, which doesn't take as much as you think. All of a sudden it's there. Then we got this. Okay, that should work. And now we need this. There's a bigger screw sitting here somewhere. I think. Woo! Oh, I split it. Okay, so there's hopefully extras. Okay. It's actually kind of a known problem using a countersunk hole in a 3D printed part. As you tighten it, the countersink actually acts as a wedge and splits your part. Okay, but that should be pretty good right there. So now the trick is, I think, this thing needs to feed. Whoa, what now? At this point, I again realized I messed up. If you remember at the beginning, I had what appeared to be 3 copies of the parts for the tool heads. Unfortunately, one was actually subtly different, and then it had a special pass-through section for the belt. I never even noticed until this point when I needed to get the belt through the left tool head over to the right one. I think I found a problem. No! Damn it. Hey, you know what? We all make mistakes. So basically, this is the part that should be over there for IDEX. It needs to allow the belt to pass through. I put the wrong freaking part on. Alright, we're just going to fix that real quick. Okay, so off camera I went ahead and took this apart and swapped out that one that was in the back that was messed up. The reason it was messed up, apparently there were 2 different parts. So there were 2 different parts for a reason. Apparently if you want to use this one if you have the single setup, but if you have the IDEX you can't have this one because you need the belt to be able to pass through. And this is meant to attach to the belt on both sides. So anyway, we've removed this. Now the belt passes through. I went ahead and ran the belt over to this one, tightened it exactly the same as this. So now you can see the belts are attached on both. And we're going to keep on moving here. I also installed the Hotend that's identical to the other side. So I figured we didn't need to see that again. So here we have both of the tool heads. I went ahead and built the second one. So it's basically identical to the first one, so I didn't think we need to see all that again. So we have 2 of them. They're both built on here, and now the next step is to adjust the gantry to make sure it's aligned. And the way that they do that, up front on both sides we have the belt tensioners. It's actually pretty pretty interesting. I thought by tensioning the belts, I didn't necessarily think that had anything to do with alignment, but the way that it's set up, once everything's tight, as you tighten it, it could be twisted a little bit. And what the belt tensioners actually do, by pulling and putting tension on the right side or the left side, you can actually adjust the alignment. And so the very next goal, what we want to do is pull this up to the front and check the gap on both sides. And the idea is to make sure this gap is the same on both. And it even kind of talks about making it so that it can touch that. But what I noticed is that we bump into the tensioners themselves. And maybe that's because I have the tensioners out too far. But I'm afraid to put too much tension on. And sort of off camera, I was messing around with it a little bit and actually popped one of the belts loose out of the holder on the tool head. So I don't think I want to over tighten them. I'm not entirely sure the best way to go about this. So we might have to come back. But for right now, I think what I'm going to do is just pull the gaps kind of close and kind of walk them together forward a little bit on each side and see if we can't get it all the way where we want. If I pop another belt loose, I guess we just fix it when we get there. Okay, so right now the right side gap is a little bit bigger. So as I twist this, it's pretty slow, but you can see that we're closing this gap here. And the other side is more or less staying the same. So I can feel the tension on the belt. It's pretty taut. This side's definitely further than the other now. So we're gonna go over here and bring that one in just a little bit. I can see we're getting pretty close. No belts have broken anything loose yet. They do feel pretty tight. All right, so we're going just a little more. I did it again. Okay, so yep, that belt popped loose. So I think maybe I'm able to get these a little tighter than expected. I'm not sure. And also this one just keeps coming loose. It's the same one that came loose before, which is very frustrating. So I'm gonna loosen this as far as I can get away with. And we're gonna go ahead and fix this. All right, welcome back. As you saw, this belt slipped out of its holder. When I was trying to adjust these, I got that fixed finally. I ended up getting a screw stuck in one of the inserts and the insert broke out, those little brass heat set inserts. Anyway, took everything apart, put it back together. I think we should be good to go now. I got the tensions, I had to redo the tensions sort of individually on each of the print heads. And as I did that, I realized that if I pulled one tighter when I set it, then I would end up, pulling this side further in or this side further in. And kind of what ended up happening is I figured out that these tensioners, if I'm going to try to push everything all the way up to the stop and I had these tensioners out too far just to start with, that it was bumping into the tensioner itself and not the end stop. So I had to release some pressure on the belt, on the tool head, on each of them, so that I could pull the tensioners in. So I read in the manual, of course, it says to leave as much play on these tensioners as possible to give you as much room to tension the cables. The only problem with that is if they're all the way out, they bump into this. And it turns out their other method of tensioning to get it like initially started really is pretty good. It does a good job of putting tension on it to start with, so you don't get that many turns out of this before you end up sort of snapping belts. So I had to back everything off and tighten these a little bit, and now we should be good. So I've been kind of messing with this and pushing it back and forth, moving things around, and I think I've got the gap just about the same. So if I push this, I touch on both sides, maybe a hair earlier on one side than the other, but I think we're in pretty good shape. And these are super easy to adjust after the fact. So I think we're gonna move on from this. Okay, so the next thing we wanna do after we've moved everything around and got all the belts sort of homed in where they wanna be, these pulleys that we have on the stepper motors, they've had a chance to kind of move into place where they wanna be. Because remember, we didn't tighten those all the way. So now I'm gonna go ahead where they are and I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten them. I'm gonna do this on both sides. So there's two set screws on each pulley, and then I'm gonna do it on this other side here too. So what I did there, I didn't like that the set screw wasn't on the flat part, so I just held the shaft steady. Okay, I got that set screw. Let's get to the other one. Okay, so I think those are good. Ooh, and that feels pretty smooth too. Well, that pretty much sums up the build of the tool heads. The next video I'll be wiring everything up. Thanks for watching, I'll see you on the next one.